What's happening? Is he? Okay. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, let me change my location to somewhere that has more light.
Okay. Well, I don't see myself.
Use your there. It's just that one.
Do it so that we can both see each other. So, because I want them, the audience, to know that it's genuine. Okay, better. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. Okay. There you go. So you have my phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. 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 Okay.
I'm trying to just put myself in a position where I can,
Okay.
I have as much light as possible.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So,
I'm
we
coming.
start.
No, just wait a second. 1 second.
Because of my eye. No, that one is okay. How you do it?
Okay.
Do we start?
Oh, yes, we can start. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Um, okay, so we're having a debate on issues that arose up from my response to a certain young woman who had asked me about the connection of my grandfather's name to the Igbos. And I believe that we have Mr. Uche Chuta, who is a former gubernatorial candidate for Abia State and a businessman of record. Uche, how are you?
Yeah, how are you doing, Reno? Good.
Very good. I'm very good. I'm very good. And so let me say a gentleman, I'm trying to get the name now, a gentleman by the name of
Mazia Ukoro.
Yes, he was brought to my attention, and then he said he wanted to debate me, and that's how this came about. I sent him an email hours ago, telling him that I was open to debating him, and surprisingly, I didn't hear from him. I mean, this was because you brought him, you told me about him, and he went public. He said he wanted to debate me. Well, I sent him an email hours ago. I sent you the email, didn't I?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
So, I mean, for someone who says he was so eager to email me, I mean, I'm surprised. Sorry, to debate me, I'm surprised. But thankfully, Uche has taken up the challenge. So, yeah, so let's go ahead.
Yeah, so first thing first, I I think all these stem from him making some relationships between names, Shekiri names and Igbo names. But I'm speaking from a layman's perspective because he claimed he's a linguistics expert. There have been so much, people have found so much relationships between languages, different people's languages. For example, between Igbo and Yoruba, there are many words which we share in common, which seem to have relationships. So I mean, the way you're going about is like you see it as a stigma of being attached to anything being Igbo. I mean, is that a stigma? I mean, is this something to be, oh my gosh, I'm cringing. I don't want to be associated with anything Igbo and I have to write all this and explain where they, so that's the impression I'm getting from the whole situation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been relationships, and the relationships between languages. For example, this lady on Twitter the other day, Sugar Betty, she gave some several relationships between Japanese and Igbo. And the reason why she did that was because she was trying to debunk some Igbos claiming that Igbo and Hebrew have a relationship. And said, if we're looking at relationships between languages, then the language of Igbo has even more relationship with Japanese than Hebrew, for example. So it just happens that it's just languages. I remember you particularly. You came to my church when I was in Abuja. And there was a very powerful sermon which you preached about. And you preached about the Tower of Babel, about the confusion that came about because of how we had different languages and what happened, the post effects in our world today of having different languages. But going back on that biblically, you know, we can actually say languages all have a common source. That means we all spoke the same thing. So there's nothing wrong if we have some common words and things like that, you know. So I want to just hear your own perspective about what you think about this.
You know, generally, as a people, I think that because of their history, a lot of Igbo people are very sensitive, and there's more sensitivity with the Igbos than with other ethnicities in Nigeria. The people who are least sensitive and most objective in Nigeria happen to be the Yorubas, and there's also some degree of with the Northerners. But with the Igbos, now I'm speaking generally, and because obviously there's going to be exception to the rule, you know, like there's a lot of sensitivity. So you asked a question, am I cringing to have any association with Igbos? Are you aware I had a child 5 months ago?
Yes, I'm aware.
Do you know the name of that child?
Ebele.
And is Ebele a Shakiri name?
Oh no, it's not a Shakiri name.
Where is Ebele from?
It's more or less an Igbo name.
It's not more or less. It is an Igbo name, entirely an Igbo name. It's Ebele Chuku, you know. So I mean, if I cringe and if I reject any association with Igbos, why would I give my own child an Igbo name? Have you seen how beautiful the child is?
I've seen, but you also mentioned that she was named after Goodluck Jonathan. So maybe you're thinking about Jonathan and not necessarily
President Jonathan. Please, I don't force me to divulge secrets that are not mine to divulge. But that name from President Jonathan is not an Igbo name; it's an Igbo name.
No, we know.
You know, so I named her after an Igbo name. You know, the name means mercy. So how would I? So let me tell you how this issue came about. This issue came about because somebody had asked me the meaning of my name, Renno, and a lot of people always assume I'm Yoruba, and some people assume that maybe Renno is a Western name. So this guy said, "Oh, I mean, he follows me, he loves me so much, he values my wisdom. He called me Solomon, and he says he wants to know the meaning of my name because he wants to name his child Renno." Okay. So I told myself, well, Renno was given to me by my grandfather, and my grandfather happened to be an Olu of Warri, and he gave me that name, and I explained to him the meaning of the name, and then I said it was given to me by my grandfather Ikembua the First, or Giame, who was Prince Moju. His name before his coronation was Prince Moju. So a certain young lady by name Noni had come and said, well, oh, Ikembua, oh, that's, you know, that it sounds like an Igbo name. There's a close association between the Igbos and the Shakiris. So I tried to explain to her, and if you look at it, I wasn't rude. I mean, it's still up there, thank God, it's not taken away. I tried to draw her attention to history because, I mean, you do know I'm a historian. You know, I read law up to master's level, but I've devoted my life to history. I've written several books, you know, on history. I've traveled, in 2019, I went to 39 different countries. You know, I went for research. Last year, I went to 18 countries for research. This year, I mean, the reason why I didn't do, I planned to do 40 last year, but because of coronavirus, and it's the same thing that limited me, you understand? So that's the thing. Now, do you have specific questions concerning the issues that I raised, or you said you were going to ask some of the questions that Mazi Ubunaya wanted to ask?
Yes. I'm going to ask a question. So first of all, do you agree with his assertion about when the Portuguese came to Nigeria?
Sorry, do I agree? What was that? What was
he stated that the first Portuguese that came in the 15th century.
He's right. The first Portuguese that came, I mean, there might have been Portuguese that came before that, but in recorded history, the first Portuguese that came, they came in the 15th century. And I don't know if you saw the documentary evidence I gave. I gave documentary evidence. I did a YouTube video, and I mean, without my permission, Nigerian papers, Vanguard, Punch, and different papers, they carried it out. So I did give Stephen, can I have a survey, please? Kleenex. Yeah, so I did give documentary evidence. He's correct. If Mazi Ubunaya said so, he's correct.
Okay, so so his argument was based on this, that the first Portuguese that came here in the 15th century, and they initially did not come for slave trade. That was not their business. I mean, historically, we know the people who started the slave trade were not necessarily the Portuguese. You know, the Brits started the
that's false. That is false. I mean, that's false. And Uche, you are too intelligent to just speak like that. That's what, I mean, this is history that it's available. You can research it. It's available. I'm sure you've heard of a man called Samuel Ajayi Crowther.
Yes.
Samuel Ajayi Crowther was bought by the Portuguese. And then the British, because they had a blockade, they waylaid the ship that bought him around.
There's no argument that the Portuguese were dealing in slave trade. But I was saying that they were not the person. They didn't start slave trade.
I'm answering the question. The Portuguese were involved in slave trade long before the British. As a matter of fact, the Portuguese had been involved. So you have to say, okay, if you look at the Americas, you know, like the earliest slaves, a lot of them went to Brazil. Brazil was a Portuguese colony. Brazil is the largest Portuguese-speaking country in the whole world. You know, after Nigeria, Brazil has the largest population of Yoruba people. So they have Angolans there. They still speak Yoruba till date. They had, I mean, so that is ridiculous. I mean, you just the Portuguese were dealing in slaves right even from before they came to Nigeria. They had been dealing in slaves in other parts of Africa. So if Mazi Ogbonnaya said so, then he's mistaken. And it's not, no, I know you're eager to talk, allow me land.
Yes.
And it's not something that is an argument. You can verify this. I mean, I'm sure you're aware that I went to Portugal. If you're not aware that I went to Portugal, maybe you can find out. I went to Portugal, I went to Obidos, where slaves were kept. I went to Batagras Castle. I went there. I mean, so I'm not just talking about things that maybe I spent money researching these things. So the Portuguese were one of the first people to be, as Europeans, to be involved in slaving. The British were late entrants into the slave trade. And then even at that, there was a lot of resistance. And so that's why there was a push in Britain to abolish the slave trade.
Okay, so this is just, I'm speaking as a layman. Like we know the influence of Portugal on Nigeria and everything. Like you can't argue about it. Lagos, for example, we know the origins of the name Lagos, you know, and different cities and things and names and all that stuff. However, are you trying to, you know, but the biggest dealers in slaves in Nigeria were not the Portuguese, but the English.
Well, like
because there's a history, according to the colonial history, you know, Portugal have been our colonial masters if they had a dominance in this trade.
Well, that's what I just told you. I honestly, I don't know who were the biggest dealers in slaves. I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that the Portuguese came for slaves to the Bight of Biafra and what's called the Niger area. They came for slaves. And so it's wrong to say that when they came in the 15th century, they did not first come for slaves. That one is an outright lie. And it's something that you can research. You know that. So, if on the matter of who were bigger slavers between the Portuguese and the British, I really don't know. I really don't know. Now you're talking about the Portuguese, about colonization. I mean, you did mention that Lagos, the word Lagos, is a Portuguese word. You know, they're all over. So that's a form of colonization. Colonization is not only when people just come. When you have people, like I gave you the example of Samuel Ajayi Crowther. Samuel Ajayi Crowther, when he was taken from Isenyi in present-day Oyo State, and he was taken by the Fulani raiders who raided him, he was taken to Lagos and sold to the Portuguese. The Portuguese were there. And so this is in the 19th century. So, I mean, like, anyway, I'm sure you have some more questions.
Yes. So, see, one of the big foundations of your argument, your post, was that you mentioned a number of cities, you know, as evidence of the Shekiris dealing in trades. Escravos, Focados, you know, and things like that. But did you actually also consider the fact that maybe they're just route cities? Route cities necessarily in the sense that, okay, I'm trying to get to the coast. And before I get to the coast, I have to pass through some certain cities, and I might stop there or whatever. And that's the reason, and that's the origin of the names of this place.
Well, I'm not talking about places that I've heard of. I'm talking about places that I've been to. And so when you go to these places, and they're in Nigeria, so you don't need a visa. When you go to these places, you still see vestiges of the slave trade there. You still see vestiges. You see there are places where they will take you, where you see like where they used to keep the slaves. You see a lot of the metal is worn out
Yeah,
now.
that's what I'm saying. Those are those route cities. Like that means on route to the coast, we stop here, we gather there, or when we buy, they gather. This is one of the places that we gather and we put them all together. There's lots of cities like that. But
that's not what happened at
because what you are saying is that the Igbos were actually slaves to the Shekiris. So
no, but see, when you ask questions, you got to allow me to, and this is part of this sensitivity that I find with a lot of Igbo people. Like
it's not about sensitivity. You have to be able to make your points clearly without prejudice and everything. Like for example, you can't just wake up one morning, write a statement, oh, Igbos were slaves to the Shekiris, and everybody will allow you to like go scot-free. It's not going to be possible. You can't do that in the 21st century.
But I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but that's what you did. You put out a Facebook post out there, and you attributed and you said, oh, this, and that the reason why the language was like this is this, and the reason why some names are because some of them left Czechia and then went back. I mean, you could have, but that was not necessarily factual. You're not there at that point in time, and your history is not necessarily out there with evidence. There's no evidence to what you're saying.
But there is evidence of what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying ask questions. Uche, calm down. Listen to me, please. Ask questions.
I've asked a couple of questions which I've not gotten any answers to.
What? But you've not.
I've asked a question.
No, hang on. But wait. Please wait. I've answered all your questions.
You've not.
No, hang on. Just let me land.
Okay.
Yeah, I've answered all your questions. I'm about to answer your question. You asked me a question wearing these route cities.
Good. Then wait for that answer. Beautiful.
Please hold on. I was about to answer. You interjected, and when you were interjecting, I said, "But this is the sensitivity that I'm talking about," and then you went on a rant.
That means you now change topic also too.
So we will get there. Ask the question, allow me to answer, because you see, I'm quiet when you're asking questions. I don't interject. Now, when I want to answer them, you be quiet. That's how conversation is. You talk, I listen, you talk. So now let me answer your questions.
Okay, answer.
Yes. There is documentary evidence in Nigeria. You can also, research it yourself. I don't want to now point you to it. There is documentary evidence in Nigeria and also in Portugal that forcados and escravos were not what you call route cities. These were places whereby they dealt with slaves. Now, when you say that the Shekiris, my people, they sold slaves. It's not as if that the Shekiris went and then they raided like Igbo villages and then no, they bought slaves. They bought slaves, and it's like trading. They will buy slaves from people and then they will sell them. Now, here's the thing: the Benin were an empire. They were an expanding empire. They were the ones. And before I go further, let me just explain to you the relationship between the Shekiri and the Benin. About 650 years ago or thereabout, there was some challenges in Benin. We don't really know what happened. We don't have the accurate history. But a prince of Benin called Ginua, that's Ginuwa, left Benin and went and founded what is now the Ishekiri nation. And so a lot of they work together. The Benis never fought with the Shekiris. The Shekiris never fought with the Benin. It's almost like we are one people. So even when the name that we call our king, Ogiame, it's a hyphenated Benin word, Ogie, meaning Lord, and Ame. So Ogie, Ame, Ogiame, meaning Lord of the Sea. And so we are, like a riverine people in a riverine area. So that's what it is, Lord of the Sea. So we had like a lot of we like call them boats, whereby we could go to different places and then get goods. We get palm oil. We bought slaves. Now, this is not history that that is necessarily pleasant. Now, what I wrote about, and it's clear, you can't twist my words because it's still there. I said that we had a number of slaves that we were trading. We traded them at mostly through Ogidime, which is also called escravos. Some were traded in forcados. These were not route cities. And there's documentary evidence for that. And I encourage people, I said they should try to watch the long video done by Sir David Attenborough. Now you have to understand, David Attenborough is not a Shekiri man, he's not a Benin man, he's not an Igbo man, he's not even an African. He's a white man. He's an anthropologist. He's world famous. And so when he says these things, he doesn't have like a dog in the fight. Now, the Benin, it's a fact, and I released the documentary evidence in the YouTube video, which you can also go and watch. The Benin were going, because you have to understand that Igbo people did not have a centralized kingdom, whereby you had one king and then all of them were subject to the king. So in terms of population, they were always more than the Benin and the Shekiri. They were always more. But because they were not centralized, it was easy because the Oba of Benin had a standing army. So he could mobilize 100,000 men within 24 hours. And so they would go on raiding parties to Igbo territory, raid, get people, and then these people were used as, I mean, this is not nice. I mean, but they were.
We talk about history. There's nothing wrong. I mean, we saw. I mean, the Black African Americans that we see here in America and all around the world, people of Black, African ancestry. Some Africans were also involved in making them slaves. It's something we should talk about and we should acknowledge.
So they raided these places and then they got slaves. And when some people were upset by what I said, I released the evidence from David Attenborough. David Attenborough bought a carving, a Benin carving from the Oba of Benin, not this Oba, not his father Ejua, but Oba Akenzua. Brought the carving out there. I mean, it's still there. You can actually see it, in the because you have to understand the Shekiris and the Benins, they carved their history. They didn't have written history like the Europeans. So what they did was like anything that happened that was of significance, they carved it. And so there's a great deal of record that you can see, historical record. And David Attenborough had this carving, and he says, okay, this carving was done in 16th century, that is 1550. These were Portuguese. And then you see there, he says that these people who had been captured were Igbo. He said it here. You can actually watch it. He says they were Igbo. He actually showed the tribal marks. I said that by these tribal marks from the anthropological research, these were Igbo people. These were things that our ancestors did. And so they raided, particularly the Benins. We, the Shekiris, mostly the state that we got were just like buying, and then we will resell. So that's the situation. Now, I talked about that we had, because it got to a point whereby the British abolished the slave trade, and then they began arresting people. That's how Samuel Ajari Crowther was saved. Samuel Ajari Crowther was actually taken to Fura Bay College in Sierra Leone, taught English. And the reason why he was taught English was not because they wanted to educate him, was so that he could testify against the Portuguese slave traders in court. Please, you can research it. This is public history. It's not something that is hidden. So they taught him English, and then he testified, and then those Portuguese slave traders were convicted. So, it now became something that they arrested. Now, can I have a bottle of water? So it's not something that you could be arrested. So the trade just died down. There was nothing that those people could do. So you had a lot of these people, they could not go back. It's just like this is not in our own area. This one is with the Ijo area, like Jaja. Jaja couldn't go back because Jaja didn't know where he was from. Jaja, I mean, it's most likely that Jaja originated from Imo, present-day Imo. But he could have been from Abia, your state, but we don't really know. But he could not go back. So they stayed, they founded communities, and that's what happened. We have people that after the slave trade was abolished, they stayed around us. A lot of people asking me, tell us the name. I'm never going to say the name because it's disrespectful to these people. But the name of the tribe is an Ishekiri word. The actual name of the tribe is an Ishekiri word. And they can't deny it, and they don't even attempt to deny it. When they speak their language, the Benin people can understand them. Shekiri people can understand them, Portuguese people can understand some words, and then Igbos can understand them. So, I mean, that's what I wrote about. I mean, I did not, I mean, so, and but everything I said, there's documentary, not oral, documentary evidence for it.
No, you see, the thing about it is that we're conflicting lots of different issues and different things. And the problem is because we Africans, we never really learned how to write. Well, we were writing, but we never learned how to document our history and things that are happening. And that's the reason why we're even having this conversation right now. You know, and in such conversations, there's a mix of half truths and lies. You know, everything's all mixed up all together, and nobody knows what's necessary.
Can I say something, please? If I've told you lies,
you're not saying anything half true because of the fact that you intend to say the half truth. It's a function of what you know. If you don't know something, you just don't know it. So if you know a half truth and you've accepted that as the truth, that is it. It's not your fault.
Uche, can I respond to that? What I said, I have provided documentary evidence. Please let me learn. It's what I talked about, the sensitivity, then you go on.
It's not about sensitivity.
Okay, so allow me learn. Just calm yourself. I provided documentary evidence for it. I provided a video. In the video, there was documentary evidence for it. Other than the documentary evidence that I provided, I also gave evidence as that, listen, these are the towns where these were done. In those towns where this were done, I mean, I'm sure if you go and research, you can research about the town of Udinibe or Escravos and Forcados, and you'll see pictures. These pictures are online. And then I also said that this tribe is in Delta State. The name of that the tribe is called, their official name, the name that they call themselves is an Ishekiri word. I'm not even going to.
Listen, I can understand where you're coming from, and this is the reason why I understand where you're coming from, and what you're saying is right in a way, you know, but that half truth way. In the sense, let me explain. The tribes in Nigeria, all tribes in Nigeria dealt with slaves. Some tribes today still deal with slaves. Some, for example, and people can even push it. Some people even go to the extreme and say, okay, when you talk about the concept of housemaid and house girls, and they use the word omodo and things like that, you're still talking about it's a form of slavery. You understand? All tribes dealt with slaves. There's some certain groups of Igbo people whose job, at that point of time, was to go capture people and sell them as slaves. If a tribe fights between themselves, like Igbo tribes, maybe they might, or any tribe fight between themselves and they win the other guys and they've captured them. They take them and they can sell them to a different group of people as slaves. That was how fluid the people were selling human beings as slaves. Now, when I mentioned something about a transit route and everything, I doubt the Shekris had the amount of human beings necessary for them for the Portuguese to make it a profitable business of slave trade. You guys, it was impossible for you to have that amount of people. So for that amount of people to have left the shores of Nigeria, there are different routes whereby maybe they had passed through Forcados, Escravos, or whatever. They had to go into the hinterland, made deals with even Igbo traders, Arabs coming from the north, capturing people. You know, it was a combination of different people from all sorts, all groups, I mean, it's you can't say, oh, these guys we had how many are you? Population has grown. How many of you were there? So like say, oh, all the Igbos that were captured, we captured them, and when we captured them, we now sold them to the white man, to the Portuguese. It makes no sense. You understand? Now, your argument about a group of people who remained is very possible because we have examples of that happened in Sierra Leone and Liberia, how people settled. In the last few days of the slave trade, when they were winding up, the last people who were maybe in the batch, they were supposed to be exported, and it ended. Where would they go to? Of course, they have to settle in that place. Maybe it was too hard for them to go back to their land. Then could have settled down there and formed a village. It just meant that there was a remembrance of people who were captured. Maybe there was a whole group of people, 1,000 people that were gotten, you know, whereby one Igbo, in fact, an Igbo man came and delivered the slaves to the Portuguese themselves in one town in that area, which we know as Shekiri, which, by the way, is being shared by different tribes of people. You know, not just the Shekiris have that land, which they have. We know the Urubos, the Shekiris, and the Jaws all have all claim the same area of land, but that's an argument for a different point, a different day, you know. And that's what happened. So that's the so when I say you're mixing half truths, not necessarily you're not telling the truth. Yes, there might be a tribe of people who speak a language in which people of Benin understand, the Shekiris understand, and the Igbos understand. But the reason why they were there It's not necessarily for the reason which you're pushing forward. Yes, they might have been slaves, but you don't know how those slaves came about. We cannot say that, oh, the reason why those group of people came was because Ishekiri used to go and buy them from Benin people, and that's why those people are here. No, they could have actually even been brought by Igbo people down there. They could have been brought by Arabs who came from the hinterlands there. They could have brought any way possible. We don't know these things. We're not there. We didn't document it. So when you make blanket general statements like that, mixing things here and there, that is why it gives us the impression that, yes, we're mixing things, mixing at a whole different level. That's all I have to say about this.
Okay, so you didn't ask a question, but you said a variety of things.
Yes, it's a conversation, not necessarily a question, but but you can pick up points from there. And if you have questions, you can also ask. But if you have points to clarify one of the things I said, go ahead.
Okay, so you said some things, and you can ask a question. So I'm just going to just respond to that. Now, what I wrote is still there, and that's the thing about writing. Writing is fixed. So it cannot be twisted or not. You said in your conversation now that all the people that the Ishekiri just captured all the Igbo people, and I never said anything like that. What I said is that the Beninese and the Ishekiris were dealing enslaved. And I said that we had lots of Igbo slaves. And these Igbo slaves, no, please, I listen to you. Calm yourself, listen to me. I said we had lots of Igbo slaves. We are not, in terms of number, we are not a lot. And I explained in it, I said that while we were trading slaves, we were selling slaves with the Portuguese. And a lot of people were upset. Immediately after that, I think it was probably about 2 or 3 hours afterwards, I released evidence. And this evidence showed that the Portuguese, they were our allies. They had an embassy in Benin. They also had an embassy in a place called Ode Shekiri. At Ode Shekiri, they built the first, how would I say, would I call it a monastery? Catholic monastery in Shekiri. As a matter of fact, they want to put a museum there. And
there's nothing special about selling slaves to the Portuguese and having an embassy. Everybody was selling slaves to them, either directly or indirectly.
Okay, so if we do this, it's going to be very hard to get to the truth. Just be calm. If you want to talk, I'll quiet.
I understand, though, but I'm just trying to, as I said, I'm presenting a point of view, and I'm sure it won't look good if I don't necessarily point out some things, to you as you're speaking. So like, Uche, why didn't you say that? Why didn't you tell him that? So that's the only reason. I'm not necessarily arguing with you. I'm calm. Chimamanda has taught us to be calm when we're delivering our message, so. I've taken that lesson and I'm calm.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
So we had Portuguese allies. I mean, if anybody, or if you are saying that you also had Portuguese allies, that's a lie, and that there's historical evidence to point it out. We had, and like I said, I encourage you, if you haven't watched the video, go and watch the video. Go and watch David Attenborough. The Benin Empire actually had Portuguese men serving in the Benin army. In Benin, there's a street called Akpakpava. Akpakpava is a very famous street. I'm sure you probably have heard of it. Akpakpava is a bastardization of the word Papal Via. Papal Via just means Pope Road. That was the road where the Pope had his embassy, the Papal Nuncio. They also had an embassy in Ode Ishekiri. They had Portuguese. As a matter of fact, the first West African to have a university degree is Ogiame Atuwashe I. And the Shekiri man, he went to Portugal in 1611, came back with a degree. We had soldiers, we were collaborating with them. So that if you say that people,
I like that word you use, collaborating with them. That's a better word. I can work with that. I can work with that.
It's going to be difficult to make any progress if you do this.
That word, I should just point out, collaborate. I like that word.
If you want to talk, I will stop talking and I'll allow you to talk to your heart's content. And when you are finished talking, I will now talk. I will respond to what you say. Because if not, we are going to have a dialogue of the deaf. And we don't want to have that. We want to have a conversation. Can I go on?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So for you to say that, okay, that the Igbos did not collaborate with the Portuguese. There's no evidence.
You said Portuguese collaborated with you guys. That's what I'm saying.
Allow me to talk.
Yeah.
The Igbos did not have any collaboration with the Portuguese. They did not have any at all. There's no historical record of that. I have provided historical record. We have carvings of the Portuguese serving in the Benin army. We have historical records of the Portuguese that were serving with the Shakiris, not as an army in the case of the Shakiris, no, as traders with us. They're helping us with muskets. So this is something that we had. We had slave camps that we were not a route city as you talked about. These were slave camps where our ancestors were actually selling slaves. And it was not only Igbo slaves, there were other slaves. The reason why I talk about Igbo slaves is because the girl that sparked up this conversation was trying to relate Ishekiri words with Igbos. And I tried to explain to her that this is the reason why. Going further, I said that that a lot of these people that we were slain as slaves after slavery ended, after it was forcefully brought to an end, rightfully brought to an end by by the British. After it was forcibly brought to an end by the British, these people they were free to do whatever they want. As a matter of fact, if you look at our population as a people, we are a very, 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 very small people, the Shakiris. And then if you look at the Benins, the Benin in terms of compared to the Igbo, the Benins are not as large as the Igbo. We were only able to do this because of the unity that we had under one king. And that's why when the Portuguese came, they were able to, okay, these people, they have a kingdom, they have one king, so we can deal with this one king, and then we get what we want. And it's the same thing that the British did. They called it indirect rule. So when they come, they look for a people who already have an empire system, a kingdom system, and then they deal with them. They were able to do that with the Yoruba. They were able to do that with our people. They were able to do that in the north. But among the Igbos, they were not able to do that. That's why the British had to create what they call warrant chiefs. And that's it. So when you're not talking about that, okay, no, it was not a case whereby that the Portuguese were going to Igbo land. The Portuguese never went to Igbo land except as warriors with the Benin army. So like I gave an example later on, because people they were upset naturally, and then they say no, that this couldn't be. I gave an example. I said, look, even if you're talking about a place like Onitsha, like the Onitsha people, if you go there and ask them about their history, they will tell you about their history, that these people they have consanguinity to Benin. If you look at their titles in Onitsha, it's not always a pleasant thing, but if you go there on Onitsha, ask about the history of Onitsha. How did Onitsha come to be as a place? It's not just in Onitsha. You go down, all along that route, you see the names. Some of the names of Bena, some of the names like these are names that trace down to Benin. So that's what I was. That's what.
Can I talk, though? Yeah. Okay, Renno, let me explain. The thing is this, right? This is not necessarily a question, but a statement. The origin of this whole conversation, and I said this at the first. I said it when one of the first statements I made about cringing. As we are in Nigeria right now, the Igbos, right? We are more interested in looking for the commonalities amongst ourselves, common across the tribes across the South, because whether you like it or not, and there's always going to be people like you who are always going to try and say no, we're different. We are more of the same than we are different. You understand? We have more similarities and more relationship with one another than our differences. You understand? And I think that's what we need to focus on more. Yes, I understand. We're trying to conflate history and things like that. But there has been a deep relationship whereby we've had a relationship with each other because the distance between us is not that much. How many kilometers? You can't pass 300, 400 kilometers equidistance between any part of the South and the Southeast. We are more of brothers and sisters. So a situation where you come and say, oh, this is what happened, No, that's not necessarily what happened. Not necessarily. We've always had that relationship. The relationship never just started today. Forget Nigeria, who came and they now say, okay, this is this state, this is Delta State, this is this one. I said that was not enough. We just said, we're tired of this Delta. Let's try and make ourselves, okay, this is South, this is Southeast. No. We are actually brothers and sisters who just by distance, by distance and things like that, languages diverge and things like that. But we have more in common than we have our differences. And that's where the origin of this came about, whereby someone mentioned to you, I said, oh, I want to name my child Renno. And I said, no, trying to prove a point and say, no, this is this, we're this. There's no point of all this one. We should not be having this conversation. You're my brother. You understand? That's how I see you. That's how we see ourselves in Nigeria. But continuously, in as much as we're trying to, we want to foster this brotherhood and sisterhood all across the region, we still have people who will come out and say, no, we're different. This is what happened. These people did this to us. These people did this to us. They did this one to us. They, they abandoned my property. They killed us. They did this one. They cheated. I mean, there's no point. If we had properly documented our history, all these things I'm saying will not be conjecture. We'll understand the fact that we're not simply brothers and sisters. That's all. So and that's how I really want to end. It's not like, yes, I had the question and answer thing, So my question to you right now is, how do you see us becoming more brother and sisters, the Shekiris and the Igbos, the Rubos and the Igbos, the Benins and the Igbos? How can we strengthen the bond amongst ourselves, apart from marrying each other? For example, I'm married to an Edo woman, a Benin woman, Benin proper. Or sorry, I'm married to a Benin woman, but and it's a normal thing that people in my area, people marry people from Edo and things like that, But how, it's not just by marriage, how do we, if the question to you, how do we strengthen the bonds between us and stop talking about our differences and why we're not trying to prove we're superior to one another. An Igbo man is not superior to a Shekiri man. A Shekiri man is not superior to another. And that's why I kept on making that point that during the slave trade, I didn't want to even accuse you and say, oh, Shekiris were dealing in slave trades. Yes, even my own people were dealing with slaves, So it's not necessarily that Shekiri thing and Igbo thing or anything. We're all the same. So how do we do this? That's my own question to you right now.
Okay, well, so to respond to you, what you have said is very, very inaccurate. How this whole issue began is not what you have painted. You're trying to paint it as if that I was trying to stir up a disunity, and that's very disingenuous. You should know better, Uche.
No, but the statements were.
I listened to you. Calm yourself.
Okay.
This is somebody said they were to name their child Renno. And I said, okay, please go ahead. I'm all for it. And then he asked me, what is the meaning of your name? So I said, oh, well, this is the meaning of my name, and these are the circumstances of my name. And then a lady saw that and said, oh, so this name, so that means that there's, it's like an Igbo name, so that means that our cultures, maybe like we are culturally related people. I said, oh, this is how the names came about. I said, in the past, we used to have a lot of Igbos that unfortunately our people were dealing in slavery. That's why I said history. I did not now say, I never said that Shekiris were superior to Igbos. You said that. I never said that Benis were superior to Igbos. You said that. I just gave a history. I said that this is the reason why that we are having Benis. And like I told you at the beginning of this conversation, Yoruba people, generally, they understand that history is not always pleasant. So they are more objective. Now, as a people, the Igbos tend to be more sensitive, although there are exceptions to the rule. So when you now talk about these things, so you are trying to say I'm superior to you. That's not what people are trying to say. I just gave history. And so history is what it is. Now, in doing that, if you do not learn from your history, you are bound to repeat it. And that's why it is good for you to just say that, oh, let us forget about this. Let us talk about how we are brothers and sisters. Then what's going to happen is that we're going to have a process of repeating history. And then we're going to keep on saying that history is repeating itself. I'll give you a very good example. The only reason why the Beninese were able to raid Igbo villages and get Igbos as prisoners, as slaves, and sell them is because, unlike the Beninese, the Igbos never had an empire under one king that they submitted to unquestioned, without question. So that unity issue is something that has set back the Igbos in pre-colonial days. Now, today, the Igbos want the presidency, and I support it. The way you're talking about it, I say, go back and read all the things I've written about Igbos. I mean, it is so sad that someone like you at your level will say that. But anyway, I'm not so surprised. But I mean, I've advocated for that. I've fought for that. I've been insulted by Northerners for that. For Igbo people, I'm not even Igbo. Now, on July 5, on the 5th of July, July 5, 2021, southern governors held a meeting in Lagos to press that the presidency of Nigeria in 2023 will come to the south. Now, all the southwestern governors were there. You know, all the entire southwestern governors were there. 3 of the south governors were there. Only 1 southeastern governor was there. Now, after that meeting, the very next day, Ohaneze Igbo said that no, if the presidency is going to come to the south, it's going to come to the southeast. Now, are you not now seeing that it is this same disunity that made it possible for these things to happen 400 years ago that is still taking place now? And then you have people like you just say, let's forget about it. Let's talk about, then what's going to happen? You're going to keep on repeating the past. If you do not remember your history, if you do not learn from your history, you're going to repeat it. And that's why I did what I did. You as a person, Uche, you have not written or, I mean, because I know you very well. I mean, before this, we have a relationship. You have not, go back and look at what I, as a matter of fact, I think it was just, was it 3 days ago that I was interviewed with Senator Ali Ndume. And Senator Ali Ndume had to beg me, please stop, please stop. Why? Because I was advocating for the Igbos. What I said is that it is wrong for Muhammadu Buhari to have made the head of the judiciary, the head of the legislature, Northern Muslim males, when he, as the head of the executive, is a Northern Muslim male. I said that it is wrong for him to have no single Igbo among the military, police, security, or military industrial complex. I made these arguments. I've written about it. I've been insulted about it. So when these things came about, it's not that I just came about it and I said, no, something led to it. And that is history. And I, for one, will never forget my history or will not stop writing about my history because I want to please someone like you. No, I will keep, my history is my history. And the reason why in Nigeria, the reason why in Nigeria, that though we do not have such a large population, the Ishekiris have been able to make a lot of political inroads. Look at Delta State. Look at how, I mean, we have produced, not just in Delta State, when Nigeria got independence, the people who have been with Obasanjo as military president, with Murtala, with Gowon, with Tafawa Balewa, you know, the kind of influence that we've had is because of our unity. And I mean, we are proud of that unity. I'm not proud of the slavery era. And I said it there. I said that I wish it did not happen. But don't come and paint it that and say, okay, yes, you know, people like you should not know. That is not what this is all about.
Okay, can I say something? First of all, the way you've been throwing around the word history from this beginning, one would think that we have a document, a big history book, and we're reading from that one, and it's almost like the Bible, and it's verifiable and blah, blah, blah. We don't have that. So everything is debatable history, you know. So history is not sacrosanct in this case because we did not have, as I kept on mentioning, we did not record our history properly. When a society that records things properly, you know, even till today, we don't record things properly. So let's just put that by the side. Now, the second thing is for you to assume that all Igbos want president, and it's a fallacy, it's a political fallacy, and it's a political conjecture which you're pushing around. A group of people might say, okay, we want presidency, but we're not necessarily interested in that. We're not interested in having a grand warrant chief at the center who bows down to some other person. That's not what we're interested in. The Igbos were not necessarily interested in that. We're interested in a Nigeria that works for everyone. Good luck at Bele Jonathan was president for about 4, 5, 6 years. And we were never harassing him and disturbing him that, oh, you want an Igbo man to take over you. We 100% supported him, 100%. There's nothing I question about you. We're united in our support of him. Even when he won, when he lost, we united and supported him. Even when he left, we have even paid allegiance to his party in which he was in PDP, and we supported the party because we understand where he came from. We understand how he opened up the doors of commerce, the economy to us. He made a chief of army staff. He was chief of army staff. We saw the things he did for Nigeria and everything. We are all about a Nigeria that works for everyone. If a Nigeria that works for everyone means a structured Nigeria where anybody can be president, so be it. Igbo president is not our problem. As you can understand, like I see you talking with the IPOB folks and the Nnamdi supporters and people for Biafra. Those are along the lines of things that we're interested in. We're interested in a strong economy for the Southeast with strong leadership, and not necessarily the warrant chiefs, pseudo warrant chiefs that we have today in power, who we call governors and elected officials. We don't want that. We want an equitable Nigeria where we can grow, we can flourish, we can trade, we can do commerce. We want to do commerce at every point in Africa, any place in the world. We want to do commerce. So we want to do commerce every place in Nigeria. Every part of Nigeria is fair game as a market. The north, south, east, Maiduguri, everywhere. So you can't say, oh, we don't want Nigeria to work. We want Nigeria to work because we want to do business all across Nigeria in peace. Equitable. We don't want our goods to be stopped at the port. We don't want somebody to close the borders at some certain day. We don't want to have to bribe to do this. We don't have to make things so difficult to do business. That's all we want. We don't want an Igbo president. Igbo president, what can I help us? We had, in our opinion, we had an Igbo president with Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. It was as Igbo as they could get. We were happy he was our son. You understand? So it's nothing. What we want is an equitable Nigeria. So please, don't push that argument that, oh, Igbos want the presidency. No, we're not pushing for that. It's Reno that just said right now that Igbos want the presidency. You know, maybe one or two political charlatans out there who feel if the presidency is zoned to the Southeast, they might have a better chance of getting the presidency, or maybe they might know whoever is getting the presidency today can be friends with him and get contracts. That's not what we believe in. That's not what we want.
Like I said again, you know, I think we can stick with facts. It's going to be very good. And I did not say that the Igbos want president. What I said, and thank God this is being recorded, I said that Ohaneze Ndi Igbo. Now, Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, to what we are told, and what the Igbos themselves have told us, is the apex Igbo social political group. It is you people, we are not the ones that say, okay, this is your apex. You told us that they are your apex social political group. They are the ones that said they want Igbo presidency. They released a statement. I can read that statement for you. The statement was released on July 6th.
They don't represent me, though.
I let you talk. Allow me to talk. If you want to start having this sermonization, go and sermonize to Ohaneze. I did not tell you that. I said that, and please, this is what I said. I said on July 5, 2021, Southern governors held a meeting in Lagos. Only one Southeastern governor attended. And I said that the very next day, Ohaneze Ndi Igbo released a statement saying that if the presidency must come to the South, it must go to the Southeast. I did not say that Igbos want presidency. You are the one accusing me.
You said that earlier before that. You said that was a statement leading to the Ohaneze statement.
Please allow me to land. If you want, I can keep quiet and you can talk, and I'll wait for you to.
I'm just pointing that out.
That's not what I said. I said that Ohaneze Ndi Igbo said that they want an Igbo president. And I gave you the dates. I have the statement here. I deal in records. That is number one. It wasn't me. So if what you see, and this is what I'm talking about now. Ohaneze is the apex Igbo socio-political organization. The apex, that's what you people told us. They have said one.
Which people?
Let me finish, please. Let me finish, please. That's what you people told us. They have said one thing. Now you are here saying another different thing. This is the unity of purpose that I was talking about, that it looks as if Igbos don't have. Because, for instance, now, I'll give you an example. If the Afenifere, come up and they say something, we can take it that, okay, this is the apex Yoruba social political group. We allow them. In our own case, we have what they call Pandev. If they come and say something, we will not question it. We will, okay, this is what they have said with their leaders. Well, if we have something to say to them privately, we come out and say to them privately. Look at me here, repeating to you what Ohaneze said. You are now arguing with me, quarreling with me, as if it is, I'm the one saying it, using the word charlatan. And that is the issue that some people see, that maybe they say, like, it's kind of like, maybe there's really, unity is an issue. That is one. Then also, you said that our people, we never kept kept history. There's no documented history. You have your history. No, 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 no. That's why probably you go back and watch the video that I gave. The video is there. Vanguard felt it was good enough to publish it verbatim. Punch felt it was good enough without seeking permission to publish it. I gave documentary evidence, and this documentary evidence is not from Renno Omokri. It is from David Attenborough in form of a carving of history. And then he put it there, he detailed the carving. Look at Egypt. Egypt, they had their own carvings of hieroglyphics. You are able to decipher history. I gave documentary evidence. And then also, I also gave further evidence. I named the towns where these were happening. The only thing I refused to do is that I refused to name the name of this tribe, but I said that they're in Delta State. I don't want to offend them by mentioning their names. And then also, I gave dates, and if you go and watch the video, I put dates. Because these things were documented by both the Portuguese and the British. And so we have copies. In Ode Shekiri, we have copies. So maybe you people did not keep a history. Speak for yourself. We kept a historical record. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, you need to come back, and thank God it's recorded. The statement leading to where you started talking about Ohanaeze is that Igbos won the presidency. And you need to, and you even point out the fact, and I told you, and I'm going to repeat it again, you cannot make a statement that Igbos are united. We are united for just causes. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was a just cause to become president in 2011. We were united on that mission. And we supported him all through the 4 years, you know, of when he was in power. In 2015, we came out again and we supported him. So you can't say we're not united. We have unitedly supported PDP over the past few years in a united front. So we're united. And this is united politically. Not any kind of united, you're united politically. So a statement where we say Igbos are not united is a wrong statement. It's not factual. We can't support nonsense. You understand? So if you now come up to and say, oh, the biggest problem of Nigeria is that an Igbo man should be president, we will not support it because it doesn't make any sense. How is it that the solution of Nigeria's problem is that an Igbo man must be president? If an Igbo man emerges as president, no problem. But that is not, there are many Igbo men who are not qualified to be president. I'm not going to name names, but we all know the kind of people, yeah. These are these pseudo-warrant chiefs which we have right now in power. You put one of them as president, Nigeria is not going anywhere. It's even going to go worse than it is right now. You know, so that is not the solution to Nigeria's problem. Oh, an Igbo man should be president. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how to restructure our Nigeria, how to make it an equitable land, how we can have our lives and property can be secured in every single part of Nigeria where we don't have to be worrying about whether we're going to be killed or not killed or things like that. That's what we're talking about, you know. And we're not talking about, they're my brothers. I have lots, you know, my brothers are, and I don't like this. I have a friend who is this, he brings that tokenism, like you have a token kind of friend. We are brothers and sisters. We live amongst each other. We've lived for centuries amongst each other. We've worked with each other. Yes, at some point of time, there was slave trade whereby Igbos amongst themselves were selling themselves. So why would I fight with an Shekiri man if a Shekiri man sells an Igbo man, a Benin man sells an Igbo man? Why should I fight? It's not a cause of fight. You understand? It's not a cause of fight. I don't even see any offense in it. It's past. Many people in Lagos, they can trace their history, the generations of history from slave trade and things like that. It's past. Let's move on. Same thing happened in the US and UK. Lots of families, a legacy of colonial of slave trade, of dealing in slaves. You understand? Let's move forward into the future. I understand talking about our history, understanding our history, but those documents, that video, I'm sorry, that's not history. It's not recognized as history. Let's be correctly in a book. Let's all verify. Let's all debate it. Let it be in classrooms over a period of 6, 8, 10 years, whereby anthropologists argue about over it, historians argue about it, and we, you know, it's established, and we all learn about it and expand the argument through it. Yes, then that becomes history. Thank you.
Well, to respond to what you said, I did not say about the Igbos. What I said, and I'm going to repeat it again, and thank God this is recorded that people can go through. I said, you made a statement that I shouldn't talk about these things that they are in the past, we should forget about them, they are all brothers and sisters. And I said, no, that if people do not learn from their past, they are bound to repeat it. And I said that the reason why the Benin Empire was able to go in into, this is from 400 in the 15th century, to be able to go into the Igbo villages and do all of these things because the Igbos were not united under one king. That is a notorious fact. It's not something that you should argue, or it's a notorious fact. And then I said that on July 5, 2021, now the southern governors, they had a meeting. And that after this meeting, we began to see discordant voices coming. And I said that Ohanese, the next day after the meeting, said that, okay, they want, if the president is going to come to the South, he's going to come to the Igbos. And when I said this, and then you, speaking right here, began to disagree with them. And I said, well, listen, this is, I mean, to all of us out there, if you ask somebody from the north, if you ask somebody from the south side, you have somebody from the southwest, if you ask us what is the apex Igbo socio-political organization, we will say is Ohanese. So what Ohanese says that we accept as coming from the Igbos. So you are, I mean, having a discordance with them, and that is not even the issue for today. I mean, I don't even know why we're going there, but that is what happens. So don't try to like put words into my mouth or maybe say things. I'm not even wanting to go there. It's that you brought about that one. Then David Attenborough is the #1 anthropologist in the whole world. There is no debate about that. He's the #1 anthropologist in the whole world. Now, go and if you want to say, okay, you don't agree with what he's saying, then that's a different thing. But for you to say that it has to be debated, no. David Attenborough is not an Ishekiri man, he's not a Benin man, he's not an Igbo man. Go and look at the evidence that were unearthed. These things are in the British Museum in London. Go and look at that. That's recorded history, that's documentary history. Now, I want to limit myself to what how this came about. Things about like what the Igbos want, and then all these other things. Those are not. It's not part of what we are meant to be discussing now. Understand that, you know. And like I told you before, we are never going to forget our history. You may want to forget our history. That's your prerogative, and it's going to be very presumptuous of me to tell you, no, don't forget your history. That is your prerogative. But we won't forget our history, because if we forget our history, then we are going to repeat it. Thank you.
Good. I mean, it's fair enough. Just as a point of correction, like, I have no problem with. I told you this. It's the issue is about not documenting. Not documenting necessarily because it didn't happen. I've agreed with you that Ishekeris had Igbo slaves. I've agreed with you. There's no argument. The only thing I have not agreed to are the numbers. I cannot agree with you on the numbers because it's not documented. It's not documenting that all the slaves.
Oh, this is the first time I'm going to do this. You know, I've always allowed you to speak.
Yes.
To do this. You see, this is the sensitivity that some people say that because of their history, maybe the Civil War and then things that have happened, like marginalization, that the generality of the Igbo people have. I read what this fellow said, this fellow, and then some other people said. I never said that we had 200,000 Igbo slaves. I never said so. The slaves that went through Ogidigbe and Forcados were much more than that. Nobody can ever tell. We really don't know, because the Portuguese and our people, we do not keep accurate records. But it was much more than that. But I never said that. What I said is that the tribe, and that's the thing, that this sensitivity, they were too anxious to just react. They were not. I said that the tribe in Delta State who speak that language, which is like a patois of our language and Igbo and Benin, that they are about 200,000. And I think they are probably more in number than our own people. They are about 200,000 now. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we had, no, that's not what I said. Go back and read it.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Like I told you, and I agree with you. But how those people came about could have happened in several different ways. It could have been at the point of when the slavery has ended today. Oh yeah, you can't sell these people anymore. You find 200 or 500 people who are there. He said, we can't go anywhere. Let's marry ourselves and have children and keep on going. Our host, the Sheriff, said, okay, no worry, you know what? This land here, you people can stay here. There's no problem. We'll stay here. Don't worry. Your brothers and sisters, we welcome you. Stay here. You can even marry your us and everything. Just stay on your own. No problem. And they stayed. There's nothing wrong with that. We understand it could have happened. Yes, it might have happened. I agree to that. But all I'm trying to say is that how it happened, we don't know the details. We don't know how many of them stayed there. We don't know about how those ones who settled came. We don't know whether they were captured by Benin's. We don't know whether they were captured by Ishekiris. We don't know whether Ishekiris used their boats to go and buy markets, and they bought the market and now turned to bad markets because they could not sell it. We don't know whether they had even boarded the ships. Then British said, no, return these slaves back. So they have to deboard the ships and now settle in the land and say, we don't have space. So they say, we have space, we have this village for you. Settle here. We don't know all these different things. Those are the things that we don't know about. But yes, it is true. A group of people are there who are living, who were actually brought to that place as slaves. Yes, it is true. They have Igbo origins. No problem about that. That's fine. Yes, it is true that there are around 200,000 of them. No problem about that. What I'm also saying is that the relationship between us and the Shekiris and all the different people in the south, and the southeast predated this slave trade of the Portuguese even coming. We're all one big family. That's what I'm saying.
Now, to respond to that, I never, and you see, maybe because you don't have, I don't know, legal training. When you are making a debate or an argument, you debate things on which you disagree with the other person. Like you see, this thing that you said, we don't know how they got there. I mean, I don't want to talk like you. We don't know. I never mentioned any of that in my write-up. I did not at all. So you are arguing with something that I did not say. What I just said is that we had slavers among our people. We traded in slaves. And that after slavery ended, that some of these people could not go home, which is what you have agreed on. And that right now, they've grown and their number is probably about 200,000, and they speak a hybrid of our language. In fact, the name of their tribe is our language. The name, and I don't want to call the name, but the name of their tribe is our language. And they speak, and you have agreed to everything I said. The part that you are saying you don't agree, I never said so. Maybe there is maybe you are arguing with Mazi Ogunaya, then go and argue with him. But I never said so. I don't know. I mean, the part that I know, go and read what I said. And then we see, so I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm just trying to find our common places that we agree, but we agree on that. I can have no argument with that.
And also, please, don't say that, oh, before the Portuguese came, we were one big happy family. That is not true. That's to say that it shows naivety on your part.
When I mean big family, I don't necessarily mean when we're doing kumbaya and dancing and going to Chuta's house and eating. That's not necessarily what I mean.
Just say this. Let me say this. Benin, from where my ancestors came from, because like I told you before, the Benua, the founder of the Shekiri Kingdom, was a Benin prince from about 600 years ago. In essence, we all basically came from Benin. Benin had been in existence, but even before the Portuguese came, they had been writing about Benin in Europe. Benin had been in existence for a very long time. The largest, and maybe we might probably have to end it here soon, because
yes. My kids are even just back and they're going to make so much money very soon.
The largest earthen structure in the world is the Benin walls that were destroyed by the British. They had pyramids, they had a moat. This was before the Portuguese. Yeah. It wasn't the Benin people that, all these things, they took a lot, it was labor intensive. It wasn't the Benin people that built it. We were not one big happy family. Don't deceive yourself. And thank you very much, Uche.
No problem. Thank you. It was a nice interview. Nice talking to you. Educative both ways. At least, and with your reach, we shall spread our message out there and people will learn. But it's always good to have these conversations. It's good. It helps. It helps everybody. Everybody should think about, have one or two things to think about.
Excellent. Stephen, how do we end this? Excellent. Bless you. My regards to Osarieme.
Okay, yes. Okay, take care. Bye.